Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Jaya Tulsi Maharani Jaya Vrinda Devi Tulsi Maharani Jaya Vrinda Devi Tulsi Maharani Jaya Vrinda Devi Jaya Tulsi Maharani Jaya Vrinda Jaya Tulsi Maharani Jaya Vrinda Devi Jaya Tulsi Maharani Jaya Vrinda Devi Maharani Jaya Vrinda Devi Jaya Tulsi Maharani ki jai. Jai Tulsi Devai Priya Kesava Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihade Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihade Madhava Gopi Janavalabha Girivaladhari Janavalabha Girivaladhari Gopi Janavalabha Girivaladhari Janavalabha Yasoda Nandana Vrajagana Ranjana Vrajagana Ranjana Yasoda Nandana Vrajagana Ranjana Nandana Vrajagana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivanadhari Jana Vallabha Girivanadhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivanadhari Jana Vallabha Giranadhari Yasoda Nandana Vrajagana Ranjana Nandana Vrajagana Ranjana Yasoda Nandana Vrajagana Ranjana Nandana Vrajagana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Ravanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Bhagavacharya Satarya Satashishimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Gauda Vaishnavinda Ki Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Prem Sikoshi Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki ISKCON Founder Srila Prabhupada Ki Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shamakun Radhakun Giri Govardhan Ki Vrindavan Dham Ki Mayapur Dham Ki Navadvip Dham Ki Jamuna Mai Ki Ganga Mai Ki Tulsi Devi Ki Bhakta Devi Ki Shishi Radha Golokananda Ki Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Gaura Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Welcome. Krishna. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhaktarinda. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhaktarinda. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhaktarinda. So we're continuing our reading of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and we're in chapter 16. the Lord's attempt to go to Vrindavan. And we're going to pick up on text number 74. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, a first-class Vaishnava is he whose very presence makes others chant the holy name Krishna. Purport. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says that if an observer immediately remembers the holy name of Krishna upon seeing a Vaishnava, that Vaishnava should be considered a Mahabhagavat, a first-class devotee. Such a Vaishnava is always aware of his Krishna-conscious duty, and he is enlightened in self-realization. He is always in love with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, and his love is without alteration. Because of his love, he is always awake to transcendental realization. Because he knows that Krishna consciousness is the basis of knowledge and action, he sees everything as being connected with Krishna. Such a person is able to chant the holy name of Krishna perfectly. Such a Mahabhagavat, Vaishnava, has the transcendental eyes to see who is sleeping under the spell of Maya. And he engages himself in awakening sleeping conditioned beings by spreading the knowledge of Krishna consciousness. He opens eyes that are closed by forgetfulness of Krishna. Thus the living entity is liberated from the dullness of material energy and is engaged fully in the service of the Lord. The Madhyam Adhikari, Vaishnava, can awaken others to Krishna consciousness and engage them in duties whereby they can advance. It is therefore said in the Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila, chapter 6, text 279. Lohake yadvat sparsi hema nahi kare tattva sparsa mani keha chinite na pare. One cannot understand the value of a touchstone until it is turned into gold. One should judge by action, not by promises. A Mahabhagavat can turn a living entity from an abominable material life to the Lord's service. This is the test of a Mahabhagavat. Although preaching is not meant for a Mahabhagavat can descend to the platform of a Madhyamam Bhagavat, just to convert others to Vaishnavism. Actually, a Mahabhagavat is fit to spread Krishna consciousness, but he does not distinguish where Krishna consciousness should be spread from where it should not. He thinks that everyone is competent to accept Krishna consciousness if the chance is provided. A neophyte and an intermediate devotee should always be eager to hear the Mahabhagavat and serve him in every respect. The neophyte and the intermediate devotees can gradually rise to the platform of the Uttama Adhikari and become first-class devotees. There'll be a darshan at 7:15. So she told you. Okay, so you can. Okay. Continuing. Symptoms of a first-class devotee are given in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 11, Chapter 2, Text 45. Sarva bhutesu ya prashat bhagavad bhavan atmana bhutani bhagavat yatmani yat esab bhagavato matama. The most advanced devotee sees within everything the soul of all souls, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. Consequently, he sees systematically everything in relation to the Supreme Lord and understands that everything exists. He understands that everything exists is eternally situated within the Lord. When teaching Sanatana Goswami, the Lord further said, Shastra yukte suni puna yadra shradha yanra uttama adhikari se taraye samsara. One who is expert in the Vedic literature and has full faith in the Supreme Lord is an Uttama Adhikari, a first-class Vaishnava, a topmost Vaishnava, who can deliver the whole world and turn everyone to Krishna consciousness. Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, chapter 22, text 65. With great love and affection, the Mahabhagavat observes the Supreme Personality of Godhead, devotional service, and the devotee. He observes nothing beyond Krishna, Krishna consciousness, and Krishna's devotees. The Mahabhagavat knows that everyone is engaged in the Lord's service in different ways. He therefore descends to the middle platform to elevate everyone to the Krishna conscious position. Somagana Tamarandasya Gananjana Shilakaya Chakshar Omli Tamnina Taismai Sri Gaurave Namaha. So we can see this is pretty much, these different types of Vaishnavas are all related to how they chant the Maha Mantra, to how well and purely they chant the mantra. Prabhupada was pointing that out there in the different levels of these Bhagavats. And they're all associated with chanting this holy name. Of course, that's the yuga, the sacrifice of this yuga, is the chanting this Maha Mantra congregationally. But in this condition, you have to, as a Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati also said in a lecture that I've been reading, one of the things he says is that we should be willing to give up our false ego. And in that, if you don't expect any respect from anyone, then one very quickly will achieve the stage of perfection. So this is, he said that this is the teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And of course, we saw that this is, Shishashaka Tunadapi Sanichena, that this mood of respect is this humility. And in Gopakumar, before he ever entered into Vaikuntha, this is the last instructions he got from Narada Muni. This is extremely important, this utter humility. We begin with humility. There's stages of humility too. It develops over time, humility. It comes into a final stage of utter humility. And these are the qualities that the gopis and all the residents of Vrindavan have, this utter humility. And then in that stage of final stage, Krishna will bestow his prema. Krishna is your goal. Typically, you have to. Humility is the huge part of the process. Okay, so let's continue. 75. In this way, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught the distinctions between the different types of Vaishnavas. The Vaishnav, the Vaishnavarta, and the Vaishnavatma. Thus he successfully explained all the symptoms of a Vaishnava to the inhabitants of Kuliagram. Finally, all the Vaishnavas returned to Bengal. But that year, Pundarik Vijayanidhi remained at Jagannath Puri. Swarup Damodar Goswami and Pundarik Vijayanidhi had a friendly, intimate relationship. And as far as discussing topics about Krishna, they were situated on the same platform. This is actually the last pastime in the Chaitanya Bhagavat, is the pastime of Pundarik Vijayanidhi and Swarup Damodar, and he gets the dream. I mean, he criticizes. Let's read very little. We'll just basically glance over it. But that's where, this is where Vrindavan Das Thakur stopped in his pastimes. And then, of course, here we got the huge amount of information coming. Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, and then there's the whole Anchalila. So, 78. Pundarik Vijayanidhi initiated Gadadhar Pandit for the second time. And on the day of the Odana Sasti, Pundarik Vijayanidhi saw the festival. Purport. At the beginning of winter, there's a ceremony known as Odana Sasti. This ceremony indicates that from that day forward, a winter covering should be given to Lord Jagannath. That covering is directly purchased from a weaver. According to the Archa Marg, a cloth should first be washed to remove all the starch, and then it can be used to cover the Lord. Pundarik Vijayanidhi saw that the priest neglected to wash the cloth before covering Lord Jagannath. Since he wanted to find some fault in the devotees, he became indignant. When Pundarik Vijayanidhi saw that Lord Jagannath was given a starched garment, he became a little hateful. In this way, his mind was polluted. That night, the brothers, Lord Jagannath and Lord Balaram, came to Pundarik Vijayanidhi and smilingly began to slap him. Although his cheeks were swollen from slapping, Pundarik Vijayanidhi was very happy within. This incident has been very elaborately described by Thakur Vrindavan Das. Now, just mentioned that he got his Gayatri mantra a second time. That was mentioned in that verse. That story is also told in the Chaitanya Bhagavat. And that he approached Lord Chaitanya and he said that I had given my Gayatri mantra away to an unworthy person. And because of that, I'm not feeling any ecstasy when I chant the Gayatri mantra. Of course, I don't feel any ecstasy when I chant the Gayatri mantra. Of course, Jamuna approached, when she went to, I can't even think, that she went and met, what's his name, that gave, when Prabhupada took initiation, he did the fire sacrifice, but later it became a huge controversy. The sannyas outside ISKCON, he's no longer around, he's a disciple of Keshava Bharati. Narayan Maharaj. Yeah, Narayan Maharaj. Anyway, she approached him, and the first thing she asked him was, I'm not feeling the ecstasy, you know. But two things here. First, Pundarik Vijayanidhi gave Gadadhar his Gayatri mantra. So when he approached Lord Chaitanya and asked him to give it to him again, he refused to give it to him. He said, Pundarik Vijayanidhi is coming here soon. When he comes, he'll give you the Gayatri mantra again. You can ask him, and he'll give it to you, and it's not proper for me to give you that mantra. But he told her, this is in her book, if you read The Art of Devotion, she talks about this. He said, actually, Prabhupada was never intended to give you that Gayatri mantra, and there's the whole controversy. When you can go on YouTube and read Govinda Dasi's, she tells the whole story, and there, how that played out. It's very interesting, and you can see how Prabhupada made adjustments so many times in so many situations. And in this purport, he just talked about it, how you have to be able to preach, and you have to. This is a Mahabhagavat. I mean, and when the moon planet, when they watched it on, when they supposedly landed on the moon, Prabhupada was in England at the time, and Shama Sundar, he grabbed it, found a television somewhere and brought it in, and they watched the moon, and then they started, a little bit of discussion about it, and ultimately Prabhupada said, turn that thing off. It's just making idiots out of all of us, But devotees, when Prabhupada said we didn't land on the moon, some devotees left. Some of his disciples, there was a deal breaker for some of them. So Prabhupada didn't push that same point on and on and on and on. He said, he adjusted it, preaching. He said, even if they went there, they have to take their, oxygen with them. They can't live there. It's not conducive. And then there's this, I was just actually reading where he adjusts. He just does, he's very careful about the faith of the devotees, because that's what you have to manage. That faith is weak, then it's very difficult to make spiritual advancement. You can actually leave under condition. You can actually be swayed by, some even arguments from scientists or non-devotees if your faith is weak. But if your faith becomes strong, it's more difficult, and it also makes it even better for you to preach and convince other people when you have strong faith. So faith adjusts and changes over time. So this is Prabhupada managed the faith of his disciples. It was very important, because you see in certain instances they would leave, and so his preaching, he would adjust. So also another instance, he pointed this out in a lecture in 1976 in Vrindavan, when he was in Vrindavan. This is, I think, November. And when he was in Chicago, they had this reporters, and there's this incident where he talked about women's brains, and it grew up in a lot of negative press. And so in this lecture in Vrindavan, he talked about these things might be in the Srimad Bhagavatam, but doesn't mean you have to talk about them. He didn't push that issue after that. He didn't make a big deal out of that issue. He didn't preach, continue that. He made adjustments. And in this lecture, he said that some of these things are there, but it's not necessary that you have to talk about these things. If they cause controversies, you have to have some common sense to a certain degree. You don't want to create disruption in people's minds. You want to try to attract them to Krishna consciousness. So it's not that you have a heavy-handed approach to preaching. You're going to go to hell if you don't accept Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ or die mentality. This is not going to be very effective. And a matter of fact, it's probably some of the biggest things that created the downfall of Christianity, this hateful type of preaching. And similarly, we have to remember that it's love we're trying to conquer people with, not hate. Where you find hate, you're not going to find love. So we have to, our preaching strategy. So faith grows. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says at first it's tender, then it becomes deep. These are the stages. Then it becomes firm, and then it becomes deep. This is how faith develops. He puts it in these three stages. So then we have the story here of Pundarik Vijayanidhi that just described it. And then he was kind of a little embarrassed when he woke up. He was happy, but the cheeks were really swollen, but he didn't want to go anywhere. This is in Chaitanya Bhagavat. But Swarup Damodar eventually came, and then he saw him, or Mukunda came, and he saw what happened. He relayed the whole story of what happened. I was just reading where Rupa Goswami, yesterday was his disappearance day. So it's a pastime. When he goes to Vrindavan, he comes back to Vrindavan, he goes to Jagannath Puri, and he's writing this book. It's all one, he was given direction by Satyabhama to write these pastimes. First it was one, then he just divided it. But when he came for the Ratha Yatra, he wanted to come with the devotees, but because he was delayed because his brother died. That's on the way back from Vrindavan to not Jagannath Puri, to Bengal, before he goes to Jagannath Puri. So that delayed him. His idea was that, okay, come back and go with all the Vaishnavas and travel to Vrindavan together. But he couldn't do that because of that, his brother dying. So he does come. He comes to Vrindavan. The first place he goes and sees Haridas Thakur. And then Haridas Thakur receives him nicely. He says that Lord Chaitanya told me that you were coming, you were to expect you. And that's about that same moment, Lord Chaitanya shows up. And then so he greets him and he embraces him and very affectionately. So he's writing Lord Chaitanya to Jagannath, and he has that prayer that Lord Chaitanya talks about, the separation of Radharani. It's the same moonlit nights. And so he writes a similar verse, puts it on a palm leaf, sticks it up in the thatched hut where he's staying. So Lord Chaitanya comes, he pulls that note out. Similarly, I can't say the whole thing, but it's the moonlit nights. It's the same fragrance, but it's not Vrindavan. She wants to go back where she can hear the fifth note of Krishna's flute. So Lord Chaitanya said, how does he know my mind? She said, there was Swarup Damodar. So what I'm finally getting to, so he slaps Rupa Goswami in a loving way, an affectionate way. This is affection of the Lord. So here we have, even though Pundarik Vijayanidhi is slapping by the Lord, this is, take that as very affectionate. Of course, Brahmananda Bharati was slapped by Lord Chaitanya in Vrindavan. We told that story where these people are seeing this light in the Yamuna, and they're saying, oh, we're seeing Krishna dancing on the hood of Kalia. Yeah, Balabhadra, who did I say? Balabhadra Bhattacharya. Okay, but yeah, Balabhadra Bhattacharya, he's traveling with him. So this goes on for, several nights, and so he asked Lord Chaitanya, can I go and see Kalia, see Krishna? And so Lord Chaitanya slaps him, and says, Krishna's not that cheap. Turned out to be what all it was a fisherman fishing, and he had like a light to attract fish. So that's the whole pastime. So this is not done, it's not done out of malice. It's done with the affection by the Lord. Okay, so continuing number 83. Whatever happened during those years that is worth noting shall be described later. Thus, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu passed 4 years. He spent the first 2 years in his tour of South India. The other 2 years, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to go to Vrindavan, but he could not leave Jagannath Puri because of Ramananda Roy's tricks. During the 5th year, the devotees from Bengal came to see the Rath Yatra festival. After seeing it, they did not stay, but returned to Bengal. Stay means they normally stay for the whole 4 months at Chaturmas, but they didn't stay. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu placed a proposal before Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and Ramananda Roy, he embraced them and spoke sweet words. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, my desires to go to Vrindavan has very much increased. Because of your tricks, I have not been able to go there for the past 2 years. This time I must go. Will you please give me permission? Save for you two, I have no other resort. In Bengal, I have 2 shelters, my mother and the river Ganges. Both of them are very merciful. I shall go to Vrindavan through Bengal and see my mother and the river Ganges. Now, would you two please give me permission? When Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and Ramananda Roy heard these words, they began to consider that it is not at all good that they have played so many tricks on the Lord. They said, now that the rainy season is here, it will be difficult for you to travel. It is better to wait for Vijaya Dashmi before departing for Vrindavan. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very pleased to thus receive their permission. He waited until the rainy season passed, and when the day of Vijaya Dashmi arrived, he departed for Vrindavan. The Lord collected whatever remnants of food were left by Lord Jagannath. He also took remnants of the Lord's Kadara ointment, sandalwood, and ropes with him. After taking Lord Jagannath's permission, early in the morning, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu departed, and all the devotees of Orissa began following him. With great care, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu forbade the Orissan devotees to follow him. Then, accompanied by his personal associates, he first went to Bhavanpur. Purport. One goes through Bhavanpur before reaching a well-known place named Jankadepur or Jankidevpur. After Lord Chaitanya reached Bhavanipur, Ramananda Roy arrived on his palanquin, and Vaninath Roy had a large quantity of prasadam sent to the Lord. After taking prasadam, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu remained there for the night. Early in the morning, he began walking and finally reached Bhuvaneshwar. After reaching the city of Kataka, he saw the temple of Gopal and a Brahmin there named Swapinesvara invited the Lord to eat. Ramananda Roy invited all the others for their meals, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu made his resting place in the garden outside the temple. While Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was taking rest beneath the bakul tree, Ramananda Roy immediately went to Maharaj Prataparudra. The king was very happy to hear the news, and he hastily went there. Upon seeing the Lord, he fell flat to offer him obeisances. Being overwhelmed with love, the king again and again got up and fell down. When he offered prayers, his whole body shivered, and tears fell from his eyes. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very pleased to see the devotion of the king, and he therefore stood up and embraced him. When the Lord embraced the king again and again offered prayers and obeisances. In this way, the Lord's mercy brought tears from the king, and the Lord's body was bathed with these tears. Finally, Ramananda Roy pacified the king and made him sit down. The Lord bestowed mercy upon him through his body, mind, and words. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu showed his mercy to the king that from that day on, the Lord became known as Prataparudra Santarata, the deliverer of Maharaj Prataparudra. All the government officers also paid their respects to the Lord. And finally the king and his men were bade farewell by the son of Mother Sachi. The king then went out and had orders written down and sent to the government servants within his kingdom. His orders read, "In every village you should construct new residences, and in 5 or 7 new houses you should store all kinds of food. You should personally take the Lord to these newly constructed houses. Day and night you should engage in his service with a stick in your hands." The king ordered 2 respectable officers named Harishchanda and Madaraj to do whatever was necessary to carry out these orders. The king also ordered them to maintain a new boat on the banks of the river, and wherever Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took his bath or crossed to the other side of the river, they should establish a memorial column and make that place a great place of pilgrimage. "Indeed," said the king, "I will take my bath there, and let me also die there." The king continued, "At Chaturtvara, please construct new residential quarters. Now, Ramananda Roy, you can return to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu." When the king heard that the Lord was leaving that evening, he immediately made arrangements for some elephants and small tents on their backs to be brought there. Then all the ladies of the palace got on the elephants. All these ladies went to the road. The Lord was taken and remained there in a line. That evening, the Lord departed with his devotees. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to the bank of the river Chitrapala to take his bath, all the queens and ladies of the palace offered their obeisances to him. Upon seeing the Lord, they all felt themselves overwhelmed with love of Godhead, and tears pouring from their eyes, they began to chant the holy name of Krishna, Krishna. There was no one as merciful as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu within all 3 worlds. Simply by seeing him from a distance, one is overwhelmed with love of Godhead. The Lord then got into a new boat and crossed the river. Walking in the full moonlight, he finally reached the town known as Chaturtvara. The Lord spent the night there, and in the morning took his bath, and at that time remnants of Lord Jagannath's food arrived. Following the king's order, the superintendent of the temple sent large quantities of prasadam every day, and it was carried by many persons. After accepting prasadam, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu stood up and started to go chanting the holy names, Hari, Hari. So this attempt will eventually, he won't go to Vrindavan on this attempt. He'll come back, and that'll be when he gets to Varanasi and he sees Sanatana Goswami and Rupa Goswami. Ramananda Roy Madharaj, and Harish Chandana always went with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and rendered various services. Paramananda Puri Goswami, Swarup Damodar, Jagadananda, Mukunda, Govinda, Kashivara, Haridas Thakur, Prakeshvara Pandit, Gopinath Acharya, Damodar Pandit, Ramai, Nandini, and many other devotees accompanied the Lord. I have mentioned only the chief ones. No one can describe the total number. When Gadadhar Pandit started to go with the Lord, he was forbidden to come and was asked not to give up his vow of Kshetra Sannyas. Purport. When one takes Kshetra Sannyas, he leaves his household life and goes to a place of pilgrimage devoted to Lord Vishnu. Such places include Purushottama, Jagannath Puri, Navadvip Dham, and Mathura Dham. The Kshetra Sannyas lives in these places alone or with his family. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur considers Kshetra Sannyas to be the preferable vanaprastha situation in the age of Kali. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya lived in this way, and he has been called a Kshetra Sannyasi. That is, a sannyasi living in Jagannath Puri. 131. When he was requested to return to Jagannath Puri, Gadadhar Pandit told the Lord, "Wherever you are staying is Jagannath Puri. Let my so-called Kshetra Sannyas go to hell." When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked Gadadhar Pandit to remain in Jagannath Puri and engage in Gopinath service, Gadadhar Pandit replied, "One renders service to Gopinath 1,000,000 times simply by seeing your lotus feet." Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then said, "If you abandon his service, it will be my fault. It is better that you remain here and render service. This will be my satisfaction." Pundarik replied, "Do not worry. All the faults will be on my head. I shall not accompany you, but shall go alone." His determination not to give up his association. "I shall go see Sachi Mata, but I shall not go for your sake. I shall be responsible for abandoning my vow and service to Gopinath." Thus Gadadhar Pandit Goswami traveled alone, but then when they all arrived at Kataka, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu called him and he went into the Lord's company. No one can understand the loving intimacy between Gadadhar Pandit and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Gadadhar Pandit gave up his vow in the service of Gopinath, just as one gives up a piece of straw. You can see he's always been with Lord Chaitanya since birth. They grew up together. There's never a time of his existence that he did not have the association, except when Lord Chaitanya went to South India. So you can see it's very, very difficult, this attachment, to give it up. So purport. Just to get Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's association, Gadadhar gave up his life's vow to engage in Gopinath service. This kind of love and affection can be understood only by very confidential devotees. Ordinarily, no one can understand this purport. Similarly, the gopis, abandon everything for Krishna. 138. Gadadhar Pandit's behavior was very pleasing to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's heart. Nevertheless, the Lord took his hand and spoke to him, displaying the anger of love. You have abandoned Gopinath's service and have broken your vow to live in Puri. All that is now complete because you have come so far. All that is now complete because you have come so far. Your wanting to go with me is simply a desire for sense gratification. In this way, you are breaking two religious principles. And because of this, I am very unhappy. If you want my happiness, please return to Nakala. You will simply condemn me if you say any more about this matter. Saying this, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu got on a boat, and Gadadhar Pandit immediately fell down unconscious. So I think that might be a good place to stop. I'll just read one more. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ordered Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya to take Gadadhar Pandit with him. The Bhattacharya told Gadadhar Pandit, "Get up. Such are the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu." Okay, all glories to Sri Chaitanya. Thanks for helping me, correcting me. I thought I said Brahmananda Bhattacharya. I don't know what I said. Huh? I'm sorry? You were in your element. Oh.
Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Samasitam Buddha Sundarangam Kandar Agom Vidamaniya Vishesha Shobha Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Angani Yasa Sakale Priya Priti Manti Vasyan Dipan Kayanti Jiram Naganti Ananda Chinmaya Sadhu Jala Vigrahasya Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham.
Shri Govinda, Gopinatha Bhajana Mohan Shaima Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Kalane Jamuna Jaya Jaya Mahama Keshigata Vamshivata Jata Sagana Jakasamba Lila Koena Shinanda Nanda Shinanda Jasoda Jaya Jaya Gopagan Shinamate Jaya Jaya Denu Vatsa Jaya Vrisha Banu Jaya Kiti Dasanare Jaya Purna Masi Jaya Kapira Nagare Jaya Jaya Gopi Shara Vrindavana Jaya 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 Krishna Sakara Bhattu Dvijara Jaya Jamagata Jaya Rohini Nanda Jaya Jaya Vrindavana Vatsi Jata Jana Jaya Trija Patni Jaya Nagakanya Matite Yanhara Paila Govinda Jara Shirasa Mandala Jaya Jaya Radhasa Jaya Jaya Rasalila Saramanora Jaya Jaya Jwala Rasa Sarva Rasa Sagar Harakiya Bhaveka Prajate Praja Shri Jana Padma Padma Korea Smaran Papada Padma Dina Krishna Dasako Eke Namasankirtan Jaya Radhe Jaya Krishna Jaya Vrindavan Jaya Radha Agalokinana Radha Agalokinana Dragode Jaya Radha Agalokinana Agalokinana Dragode Jaya Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Radhe Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Sri Radhe Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paramahansa also Teta Satashi Shivad His Divine Grace Sabaya Chaturad Bhaktivedanta Goswami Srila Prabhupada Jai ISKCON founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nantakoti Vaishnav Vrind ki jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem Seko Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sidvaita Gadadhar Sivasati Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Sri Sri Radhakrishna Gopi Gopinath Sai Mukunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan ki jai. Vrindavanam ki jai, Mathuranam ki jai. Jagannatha Swami ki jai, Ivanamai ki jai. Shrimati Vasudevi ki jai. Samaveda Bhakta Vrind ki jai. Gaur Premananda Hadiyambo. All glories the assembled devotees. All glories the assembled devotees. All glories the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The Bhagavan Vishnu Padaya Krishna Krishna Budalai Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namah stays as what David says in the body pushed at the days returning. All glories to Radha Krishna and the divine forest of Vrindavan. All glories to the three presiding deities of Vrindavan, Sri Govinda, Gopinath, and Madan Mohan. All glories to Shamakund, Radhakund, Govardhan Hill, and the Yamuna River, Kalendi. All glories to the great forest known as Mahavana. All glories to Keshigat, the Vamsivat tree, and the 12 forests of Braja. At these places, the son of Nanda, Shri Krishna, performed all of his pastimes. All glories to Krishna's divine father and mother, Nanda and Yashoda. All glories to the cowherd boys headed by Sridham. All glories to the cows and calves of Braja. All glories to Radha's divine father and mother, Vrishabhanu, and the beautiful Kirtida. All glories to Purnamasi, the mother of Sandapandi Muni. All glories to the young cowherd maidens of Braja. All glories to Gopishwara Shiva, who resides in Vrindavan in order to protect the holy Dham. All glories to Krishna's funny Brahmin friend, Madhu Mangal. All glories to Ramghat, where Lord Balaram performed his rasa dance. All glories to Lord Balaram, the son of Rohini. All glories to all the residents of Vrindavan. All glories to the wives of the proud Vedic Brahmanas. All glories to the wives of the Kaliya serpent. Through pure devotion, they all obtained the lotus feet of Lord Govinda. All glories to the place where the rasa dance of Shri Krishna was performed. All glories to Radha and Shama. All glories to the divine rasa dance, which is the most beautiful of all Lord Krishna's pastimes. All glories to the mellow of conjugal love, which is the most excellent of all rasas and is propagated in Braja by Shri Krishna in the form of the divine Padaki above. Remembering the lotus feet of Lord Nityananda's consort, Sri Janavadevi, this very fallen and lowly servant of Krishna, sings the Sankirtan of the holy name. Jai. So,
Sarvatmasnapanam param vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam nam namakari bahuda nija sarva shaktis tatrapita niyamita smaranena kala etadrishita vakripa bhagavan mamapi Durdaiva midrishami hajjani nanuraga Trinada sunichena Tarora suhishuna Amani namana dena Kirtaniya sadahari Nadanam najanam nasundarim Kavitam vajagadisha kamae Mama Janmani Janmani Ishvare Bhavatad Bhaktir Ahoitaki Twai Ainanda Tanuja Kinkaram Patitam Mam Vishame Bhavam Buddha Kripayata Vapada Pankaja Stita Duli Sadrashim Vachintaya Nayanam Gadadashu Daraya Varanam Gad Gaduradaya Gira Pulakarnishitam Vapukada Tava namagrahane bhavishyati yugayatam namishena chakshusha pravashayatam shunayatam jagat sarvam govindam virahena me Adrishava Padamratam Marastu